Tom Hanks now says that if Philadelphia were made today, he wouldn't do it because the character was gay and he's not. Well, besides the fact that this would force all gay actors to reveal their sexuality, even if they didn't want to, great actors, which Tom is one, try hard to keep their private lives private so we don't think of their real lives when we see them in a movie that attempts to transport us into a different world. Could you really look at this actress now and not think of the trial? Should she only play bed shitters now?
Tom Hanks recently said that if Philadelphia were made today, he wouldn't take the role. A surprising claim from the Oscar-winning actor who once portrayed a gay man living with AIDS, explaining that because the character was gay and he isn't, he wouldn't do it now, which he frames as cultural progress even though it feels like the opposite. Before going further, hit like if you're worn out by Hollywood treating identity and ability as the same thing. And if you're new, subscribe because there's plenty more to unpack. Hanks's argument boils down to the idea that gay roles should only go to gay actors, but taken seriously, that logic leads to a strange place where performers would feel pressured to reveal personal details just to get hired, privacy disappears, and talent takes a backseat to box checking. Hanks became iconic precisely because he could disappear into a role, reminding us that acting is about transformation, yet today's industry mindset shrinks that creative freedom. Bill Maher recently pushed back on this trend, delivering one of the clearest reality checks Hollywood has seen in years by mocking the notion that actors and casting directors must apologize for doing their jobs, including the rise of so-called casting police who argue that playing someone different from yourself is somehow offensive. That's the irony. Pretending to be someone else is the very definition of acting, and it's now treated like a problem. Maher also pointed to the backlash against actors like James Franco for playing Fidel Castro, and even John Leguizamo, who has portrayed a wide range of backgrounds throughout his career, called for a boycott, which only highlights the contradiction at the heart of modern casting debates and says far more about Hollywood's current mindset than any performance ever could.
Casting directors have to stop listening to the casting police and go back to doing their job, which is picking the best actor for the role. Now, I mention this because a lot of people lately are either apologizing for or calling on others to apologize for playing roles they call appropriation. James Franco was just chosen to play Fidel Castro, and John Leguizamo posted, "No more appropriation. Boycott. This fucked up. I don't got a problem with Franco, but he ain't Latino." Okay, but John Leguizamo is Colombian American. He ain't a Venetian, but he played one. He ain't a French little person or an Italian plumber, but he played them too because he's an actor.
Maher didn't sugarcoat it at all, saying flat out that if today's strict casting rules had existed when many actors started out, they wouldn't have careers in the first place. And he's got a point, because if performers were only allowed to play versions of themselves, a huge number of them would be unemployed overnight. Acting works because of empathy, stepping into the life of someone different from you and making the audience believe it. When actors are told they can only portray identities that exactly match their own lives, no one is being protected and the art itself is being weakened. Take that idea to its logical end and the results are absurd. Straight actors can't play gay roles. Able-bodied actors can't play characters with disabilities. No one can portray historical figures from other countries. Daniel Day-Lewis can't play Lincoln. Meryl Streep can't play Margaret Thatcher, and Denzel Washington can't perform Shakespeare's Macbeth. The creative world turns into a dull, self-imposed box, leaving us with flat performances, recycled stories, and films that feel approved by a human resources department instead of shaped by imagination. Maher summed it up well. When you forget what acting actually is, portraying someone else starts to look like a moral offense. Remember when Sean Penn won an Oscar for Milk? At the time, it was praised as a powerful show of unity, but today, that same performance would likely spark online outrage. Eddie Redmayne later said it was a mistake to play a trans character in The Danish Girl because he isn't trans, even though the role earned major recognition for his transformation. Instead of celebrating that effort, it's now treated as a problem. And as Maher pointed out, limiting who is allowed to play which roles doesn't sound inclusive at all. It sounds like putting walls around creativity.
Sounds like an unforgivable sin until you remember that's what acting is. That's why acting jobs are called roles. Sean Penn won an Oscar for playing gay civil rights martyr Harvey Milk. At the time, it was considered a courageous act of solidarity for a straight male movie star to play a homosexual. Now it's the opposite. Eddie Redmayne played a transgender woman in The Danish Girl, but now calls that a mistake because many people don't have a chair at the table. Well, actually, in movies now they do. And what does it have to do with you playing trans? Does it then work the other way? Can trans actors only play trans characters? Because that's not going to be a good deal for them.
You see, when Hollywood starts obsessing on identification boxes instead of telling interesting tales, everyone loses. Actors have less opportunities, stories become diluted, viewers lose interest. The real sadness is that our industry used to be the only one that welcomed change. Actors could play robots, saints, gangsters, aliens, monarchs, or queens, depending on the scenario. You now need a committee to approve your casting choice because, God forbid, you misrepresent something. The absurdity was aptly highlighted by Ma's joke about Cuban actress Ana de Armas as Marilyn Monroe. Some said that because of her accent, she chose the wrong choice. Hey, maybe she should play Fidel Castro and James Franco can play Marilyn Monroe, remarked Ma.
Why don't we just go by merit and let the best actor win? Which seems like what happened when Ana de Armas just got picked to play Marilyn Monroe, even though she's Cuban with an accent. Hey, maybe she should play Fidel Castro and James Franco can play Marilyn Monroe, and then we can all stay in our lanes. Is that what diversity and inclusion look like now? Everybody's staying in their lane.
It's a humorous line, yet it has a powerful effect because that's exactly where Hollywood is heading. A society where everyone stays on their own path. A society where conflict is fostered by diversity. And when did we decide that identification is more important than ability? When did people get offended by the practice of transformation? Movies are not made better by the stay in your lane mindset. It renders it ludicrous. Remember how Johnny Depp was criticized for playing a Native American in The Lone Ranger? Or Gal Gadot facing criticism for wanting to play Cleopatra since she is Israeli rather than Egyptian. Emma Stone was criticized for her representation of a Hawaiian character. Jake Gyllenhaal for playing a Persian. Meanwhile, no one notices when Hamilton casts black performers as the founding fathers. Why? Since it is considered a form of artistic expression.
Lawrence of Arabia was gay. Peter O'Toole wasn't. I can live with that. Because he was so cool, he almost made me gay. Emma Stone caught hell for playing a Hawaiian, Jake Gyllenhaal for playing a Persian, Gal Gadot for wanting to play Cleopatra, Johnny Depp for playing an Indian, even though he's not an actual Comanche, and spoiler alert, he also doesn't really have scissor hands. And he's not actually a drunken pirate. Okay, bad example.
But if you alter the story, it turns into cultural appropriation. One was commended while the others were canceled, even though the deed was the same. Maher keeps highlighting this hypocrisy. Woke Hollywood celebrates some identity violations while demonizing others, and the rules are always shifting.
Acting always about making us feel our common humanity beyond separate identities? A black George Washington in Hamilton, of course. But Ryan Gosling as Frederick Douglass? Yes, that would be problematic.
In order for the audience to concentrate on the character rather than the performer, Ma pointed out that great performers kept their personal lives private. Think about it. You don't think, oh, there's that British guy pretending to be American when Daniel D. Lewis plays Abraham Lincoln. All you see is Lincoln. That's the goal. However, due to identity policing and oversharing, every performance is now filtered through personal information we were never supposed to know. Moreover, it's not just an artistic issue, it's a cultural one.
What's Daniel Day-Lewis really like? I haven't a clue, which is why he's so great. Because when he plays Lincoln, I only see Lincoln. I don't think, well, there's a British heterosexual. But Hanks says, I don't think people would accept the inauthenticity of a straight guy playing a gay guy because, quote, we're beyond that now. Don't get him started on bosom buddies. I mean, really? Does Forrest Gump get thrown under the bus too because Tom isn't really mentally challenged? And as far as we're beyond that, no, that implies progress. This is the opposite. This is regression. And
These days, it is deemed offensive. You'll be told that you can't even try to understand someone's circumstances since you'll never be able to. But isn't it the very point of storytelling as a kind of art? In an effort to understand, Ma referenced the 1950s book Black Like Me, in which a white author darkened his skin to experience what it was like to be a black man in America.
it is, frankly, typical of so much wokeness that doesn't build on liberalism. It undoes it. Empathy, putting yourself in someone else's place so you can understand them better, used to be the very heart of liberalism. Now it's considered offensive because don't even try to put yourself in my shoes because you could never know. What a bunch of bullshit that always was. Of course, no one can ever know exactly what another person's struggle is, but we try. Black Like Me was a 1950s book about a white man who darkened his skin and went out into society because he wanted to understand what his black brothers and sisters were up against. Today, all the woke mob would see about that was a guy who did blackface.
Do you notice the difference? Understanding and making a connection is one tactic. The other just criticizes and divides. The real agony of being awake is that the cycle of rage never ends. It is impossible to win. If you ignore a problem, you are being cruel. If you try to take part, you are appropriating. The goalposts change every 5 minutes, and avoiding cancellation is everyone's top priority. Ma even ridiculed the term Jewface, which some activists started using to describe non-Jewish actors playing Jewish characters, including Bradley Cooper's portrayal of Leonard Bernstein in Maestro. Ma joked, using Jewface to fight anti-Semitism is so ridiculous that it sounds like something Mel Gibson might say at a traffic stop.
Bradley is, sadly, a Gentile, and that's the new sin in Hollywood, being a non-Jewish actor portraying a Jew. Because that's always been the problem in Hollywood, not enough Jews. The woke even have a word for this troubling new phenomenon, Jewface. Do you see what I mean about them having their head up there? Really? The word you're using to fight anti-Semitism is Jewface? It sounds like something Mel Gibson says at a traffic stop.
He's honestly not wrong, because once you think it through, the whole idea becomes ridiculous. Are we going to start assigning roles based on religion next? Ban atheists from playing priests? Or require DNA tests before auditions? That's where this path leads, and the danger goes far beyond making bad movies because it slowly erases imagination itself. Maher wrapped up by saying what many people in and outside Hollywood are afraid to admit. This isn't progress, it's backtracking, and it has nothing to do with inclusion. It's about exclusion dressed up as good publicity. Hollywood used to expand opportunities, not shrink them, and it once celebrated bold change instead of punishing it. But now, under the banner of moral superiority, it's reviving old, limiting rules that look suspiciously like discrimination. The people pushing this trend believe they're doing the right thing, yet they're damaging the very industry that once used stories to unite people. Audiences don't really care about which boxes an actor checks. They care whether the movie works, whether the story connects, and whether the performance feels real. Maher's argument is simple and powerful. Choose the best person for the job and let talent lead, because that used to be the purpose of acting and the heart of art. If Hollywood doesn't snap out of this mindset soon, it risks losing the magic that made movies special in the first place. Acting isn't about being yourself. It's about becoming someone else through creativity, empathy, and transformation. And once that idea is forgotten, the art starts to fade. Instead of obsessing over who is allowed to play what, Hollywood should remember why people love movies at all: to connect, to feel, and to escape. If Philadelphia were made today, Tom Hanks playing that role wouldn't be a political statement. It would be a reminder of what real acting looks like. That's just my take, though. What do you think? Should actors only play roles that mirror their personal lives, or should Skill matter more than online outrage. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you like this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who's tired of Hollywood's performative nonsense. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.